Ethereum just hit $4,500 as inflation came in lower than expected. Bitcoin continues to consolidate at the same exact level, and altcoins are getting relief, as we discussed in yesterday's video. In today's video, we'll be talking about how I'm navigating this market and going over what we can be expecting next in the upcoming days, weeks, and months. If you enjoy the content, make sure to smash that like button and subscribe. Without further ado, let's jump right into the video. So, first of all, the elephant in the room, Ethereum at 4.5K. We got a massive weekly close last week above this level, and so it was always more likely that we were going to see continuation for ETH. And we've been tracking this on the channel at length. As you can see, we continue to pump on the ETH Bitcoin pair as well. ETH continues to outperform not just Bitcoin, but the rest of the altcoin market, which I will bring your attention to right here. As you can see, every single video that we cover this chart, it gets lower and lower and lower. This is altcoins measured against Ethereum. And here I am repeating myself again. This is ETH season, not altcoin season. As you can see, altcoins collectively against Ethereum are almost down 50%. Why hold altcoins when you can simply just hold Ethereum and get most of the exposure to the altcoin market, get most of the reward and less of the risk? This is how I've been navigating this market. But that's besides the point. ETH is looking very, very good. And of course, as ETH goes up, we can see that altcoins get relief. In yesterday's video, we also talked about how Bitcoin dominance could likely move lower if Bitcoin stays at the exact same levels. And so if we take a look at the Bitcoin chart, you can see that we have not fully filled that CME gap, which I also talked about in my previous video. So what are the scenarios here? Because filling the CME gap, in my opinion, is inevitable, regardless of whether we pump and make a new all-time high, or if we just go ahead and consolidate here. You can see that the bottom of the CME gap is still right around here, which is 117.4K. It's highly likely that we go ahead and fill it at some point, but as you can see, last time we struggled for quite a while to go back and fill that CME gap. You can see that since this gap was established, we essentially chopped sideways, also setting that new all-time high around 123K for 21 days before we came back down and officially filled that CME gap, give or take 20 to 25 days. And so if this were to repeat and Bitcoin does end up consolidating above these levels, then at that point, altcoins will continue to outperform Bitcoin, in my opinion, with, of course, Ethereum leading the way. So if I take a look at this Bitcoin chart, the scenario that I outlined was holding the point of control as support, and consolidation above that level would be very bullish for altcoins in the short term. Now, don't get me wrong, my base case here, as I zoom out on the Bitcoin dominance chart, is that it will likely continue to increase when we have Bitcoin's next big move. But so long as Bitcoin consolidates here, it's more than likely that Bitcoin dominance will continue to go down, with ETH leading the way. And speaking of altcoins, I do need to show you some of my trades because I did actually enter a pump long, which you can see is now sitting just under $3,000 in profits. Now, if you're in my premium group, you would of course caught this trade as well. This is what it looks like in my group, where essentially we post trade setups on a daily basis, and I also give more detail on my thesis and how I'm navigating this market. If you want to join this free Telegram group, remember, you do have the first link in my description down below. All you need to do is message me the word premium on Telegram, and I would be happy to onboard you. That is the first link in my description down below. Now back to the trades. As you can see, this altcoin trade on pump is doing significantly well. We're currently sitting at around a 40% ROI. However, we also got a very epic Bitcoin long trade from much lower levels, which I shared on the channel the past few weeks. You can see that we realized just under $36,000 in profit, and the unrealized P&L is currently sitting right around $40,000. Now, I want to take some more profits on this trade if Bitcoin is to confirm below the point of control. The reason being, we can maybe get better entries for a new Bitcoin long, but for now, you need to pay attention to these key levels. So long as we hold above 117.9K, the point of control, it's more than likely that we just continue to chop around here, and this area is where altcoins will finally have a lot of relief against Bitcoin. This is exactly what happened over here. Since we bounced from the bottom of the range, this, where Bitcoin had a little bit of uncertainty, below the top of this range is where altcoins really started to outperform. And if this is another area of uncertainty, it's also highly likely that altcoins will outperform. So in my opinion, these are very good opportunities for trading altcoins in the short term. My base case is still that Bitcoin dominance will be increasing, and this is not the end. This is not the start of altcoin season. As I said, it's Ethereum season, but in the short term, we can still make some amazing gains in this market, trading altcoins as Bitcoin continues to shop around. So I do think that we will go ahead and fill the CME gap. It's only a matter of time. The question is if this will last weeks, or we will end up making a new all-time high and at some point getting a new correction down below. Because as you already know, if you've been watching the channel, my base case is also that Bitcoin will likely come back down sometime around the end of August to September. The reason being, we typically see these kinds of corrections as we approach the latter stages of the bull market in the post-halving year. And September, on average, is a red month for Bitcoin. And so I would be expecting a correction in September. Maybe it would bring us all the way down to the bull market support band. If you don't know what that is, it's compiled of moving averages, and it's this band all the way down here, down below, which is around 106K down to around 103K. Now, obviously, this is made up of moving averages, and so this can continue to increase as Bitcoin remains up here. But ultimately, I do think that at some point, we will come back down, probably by the end of August to September, and that's where I would be entering a new epic Bitcoin long. Because if we are to potentially come back down to these levels, it would be a scenario like this where we went long, everyone will be freaking out, only for us to hold support here in this huge support zone, and then we would get a massive bounce to higher valuations. Now, it may seem overly simplistic, but I have been in this market for a while, and I'm telling you, we won't just be going straight up from here, despite the fact that Bitcoin is currently holding at the point of control. So in the short term, very favorable conditions for trading altcoins, especially as we are above that point of control. However, in the more medium term, before we get the next massive leg for Bitcoin, I do think that we will be getting a correction in the coming weeks. Obviously, I don't have a crystal ball, so just make sure that you're ready for a potential red September before the last leg higher of this bull market. But I'd love to hear your thoughts. Leave them in the comments down below and tell me what you think could be happening for Bitcoin next. Do you think we're just going to be going up in a straight line, or will we have some kind of pullback relatively soon? For now though, as I said, great environment to be trading altcoins, especially if we continue to hold right above this level. Wow, my drawings are terrible here. But anyways, you get the point. If we continue to hold right here, I still think altcoins get relief with Ethereum leading the way, which is why I've been very vocal in saying that I hold Bitcoin and Ethereum because Ethereum gives me the gains of the altcoin market while minimizing my downside risk. I'm a serious investor, and so that's how I play the crypto market. Taking a look at ETH, I mean, this is just phenomenal. 4.5K. And at this point, all-time highs are really imminent. Now, I wouldn't just go aggressively long on ETH here. If Bitcoin consolidates around these levels, sure, it could be a good trade setup, but right now, we are technically getting a little bit overextended. That being said, we will be hitting the all-time high, and we will be putting in a brand new all-time high, likely between $5,000 to $7,000 this bull market cycle. So prepare yourselves because ETH is just getting started. Now, I want you to also pay attention to the fact that the stock market officially rose to a new all-time high today, nearly up 33% from its April 2025 low. So obviously, with stocks going up, we get relief rallies across the board for crypto too, and so this is ultimately very, very positive. The question is the stock market seasonality around end of August to September going to come into play? And that's when we'll likely have some kind of correction before the last leg higher for Bitcoin. Look, I know it kind of sucks to talk about corrections, but I want you to stay level-headed in this market, and so I'm just doing my duty to share with you that we will likely see some kind of pullback at some point. You need to be prepared for this and not freak out thinking that the market is over. If we were to go back down to the bull market support band, which I highlighted in today's video, it's likely going to be an amazing longing opportunity for the last leg of the bull market. Just prepare yourself for that. Again, I don't have a crystal ball, but that is currently my base case. More relief for altcoins for the time being as Bitcoin continues to consolidate, and then we'll have to see what Bitcoin's next big move is, but I certainly won't be freaking out if we end up going lower before going higher. And I also think that at some point we will be filling that CME gap on our way back down. Just prepare yourself because we chopped around above the CME gap last time for a matter of 25 days. And to wrap up this quick video, of course, Trump came out and started speaking about Jerome Powell. He says that he's considering allowing a major lawsuit against Fed Chair Powell because of the horrible and grossly incompetent job he has done. He also says Powell must now lower rates, and the damage he has done is incalculable. I'm not sure what you think about this, but as you can see, we did get July CPI inflation being unchanged at 2.7%, below the expectations of 2.8%. That being said though, core CPI inflation rose to 3.1%, above expectations of 3%. Core CPI inflation is now above 3% for the first time since February of 2025. The Fed is actually in a tough spot because we have headline inflation cold and core inflation hot. Month-over-month inflation is exactly as expected. And because of this, we also know now that there's a 94% chance that we get rate cuts at the next FOMC meeting. And that sums up today's quick video. The trades are doing very well. Altcoins are getting a little bit of relief as Bitcoin continues to consolidate. Inflation came in lower than expected, and therefore the stock market also just put in a brand new all-time high. Rate cuts are inevitable at the September meeting, at least according to the odds, and so we'll have to see how things develop. That being said, at some point, I do think we will be filling that CME gap. We won't just explode to the upside without coming near it. And I also think that sometime near the end of August into September, we will have a little bit of a weaker market for a smaller period, which would likely provide an excellent opportunity to go long across the board. And as I finish off this video, remember, if you want to trade with me, you have the first link in my description down below, and I'd be happy to onboard you into my free premium group. If you enjoy the content, make sure to smash that like button and subscribe, and I'll see you in tomorrow's video.